Hey there, aspiring guitarist. I told y'all in one of my last videos that we were going to work a little harder and a little more on chord progressions with our chord practice. So this week we're going to do G, C, and D. But we're going to add a little flavor to it. Now, actually, what we're saying in our chord progression is we're working on the key of G. And we're going to go back to our circle of fifths. Here's a neat little wooden circle of fifths they have. And, it allows you to dial in the key you're in. And then also, you remember the chord wheel. And remember, this spins. So basically, you set the little arrow right here on the key you want to be in, and then to either side are the major chords. There's your minor chords, and there's your seventh. Now, there's a lot more to it than just that, but that's the reason we're going to work on G, C, and D. And we're going to talk about a few things that go with G, C, and D. Let me get that back down. But there's different ways to play a G. There's different ways to play a C and different ways to play a D. This is my little Luna Peace guitar. I love a neat guitar. It's a little noodling acoustic guitar. It's got the peace sign in the sound hole, and it has the name Peace in all different kind of languages. But the nice thing about Luna guitars is they sound good, which is why I like them. So, you can do a regular open chord, and we'll go into more of this. A G, and then a C, and then a D, and that's a good practice right there by itself. You're hitting the circle of fifths. You're doing a G, a C, a D. If you ordered one of these, and once I in this video and edit it, I'll drop the Amazon link for that chord wheel. It's not a lot of money. I've dropped it in several videos. It's, I don't know, somewhere around $10. I don't even think this one's that much. It's a little wooden. Well, it's kind of neat. It doesn't go into as much detail as the chord wheel. And the chord wheel is a book, which has a lot of other information in it and breaks down scales and all kind of things. It's a really neat tool. I've got a video on the circle of fifths, and remember, that helps you if you're wondering what that is about. That helps you in knowing what chords to play. If you're playing with a bunch of other people and they say, well, we're in the key of G, then if you're in the key of G, you're going to get a C, you're going to get a D, most likely. Not always, because there's improvisation and you have choices. You also are most likely going to get an A minor and possibly an E minor. Now, it would be great as you practice your chord progressions this week to incorporate a little bit of all that. Maybe go from a G to an E minor to a C to a D. Incorporate different things. Think about anchoring the roots, because I want to show you a different way to do a G, C, and a D. And I'll show you on the fret light. But, there's other ways to play a G. And what I'm doing right here is different than your typical second fret, fifth string, third fret, sixth string, and then the open chord, third fret, first string. That's the way many of us were taught to play it. But many people play a G by bumping up the ring finger to the second string and dropping the pinky down on the first string. Now, you can move to a C very simply. Now, you're probably thinking that I'm talking about doing this, moving to that C, the C that we've all learned to play. Well, I'm not. If you're in this form of G, the one I just showed you where you drop the pinky in, you can just pick up the ring finger and the first finger and drop each one of them one string down. And now you've got a C. Okay. Then you can pick up the first and the second finger and you can make the D. You can just put them in place on the second fret, third string, second fret, first string. Now you can lift up the pinky to get that D major, but throwing it down adds some flavor too, and you get one of those sus chords in there. G, C, D, G, C, D, drop the pinky, lift it back up, lift the middle finger, put it back down, anchor these two again, leave them sitting, and go back up to your G. Incorporate whatever rhythm you want to incorporate. So let me just show you on the fret light. What I've done here, let me put the strap on because the fret light uses this wireless button right here. And if I get that against my hip sitting down, even though I know how to do it, it's going to make it go off, and I don't want it to go off. So this is the fret light, and I've told it to light up major chords and arpeggios for the note of C. So that means with C, you can see it's blinking the root note of C. So there's right there on third fret, fifth string. Then over here in the second fret, the fourth string. Let's do it again. This is just like you play a normal C. Third fret, fifth string. Second fret, fourth string. But down here, see, we could also come over here and play the second. That gives you that normal C that everybody's used to seeing. See it? But what we're doing different, notice it's added that note and that note. So what we're doing is we're putting the pinky down here, and then we're coming up in here, and that's how we're making our C. So now let me change it to a G. And here's the G. And there's the G you're familiar with seeing here, here, and here. But look, I got two notes. You're used to seeing second fret, fifth string, third fret, sixth string, and then third fret, first string. But notice we've got an extra note, third fret, second string. That's how I was telling you is another way to make that G, which allows us to anchor and then just lift up and drop down one set of strings to get the C. So you just go back and forth. All right, here's a G. It's showing all the notes. Let me change it. And there's a C. And as you can see again, here's your normal C, open chord C you were taught. But what we're doing is we're adding that note right down there, which is the G, part of the C scale. So your chord progression is G, C, D. You can play it with a normal G, the normal open chord C, the normal D. Work on that. Work on changing. And do all the little things I've told you. Strum it. 2, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. D, 2, 3, 4. Back to G, 2, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. D, 2, 3, 4. Go to G, one at a time. And then come back up. Let me adjust the camera a little bit. There we go. So G, C, D. And then remember, you can play those different ways of doing the G that I showed you just a minute ago. See what I'm doing? Play with your chord progressions. I'm just hitting the 6th and the 5th string. Then you can go back to the open chord way of doing it if you want. The normal open chords, G, C, and D, that requires a lot of more lifting and movement than what I showed you the alternative ways to play. I'm pretty much keeping this anchored the whole time. So let's work this week on G, C, and D. Now, remember your circle of fifths. Let's not forget that. So let me dial it back into G again. So you got your C, and then you've got your D. And don't forget, you've also got an A minor, an E minor, and a B minor. So, you could incorporate all that. G, A minor, D, C, E minor, back to D. Move them around. See what sounds good to you. Chord progressions. Try, you can start out just going from one chord to another chord. You could just do G to C. Or you could do it the way I just showed you, where we incorporate adding the pinky down on the first string, 3rd fret, and then just lifting up 1 and 2 and dropping them down 1 string to get the C. G, C, G, C. I know this seems boring, but chord progressions, going from a chord to a chord and incorporating it into the circle of fifths, not only is going to get in your mind, okay, well, if I'm in the key of G, I'm probably going to see a C and a D, might see an E minor. Later, you'll learn when a minor comes in to resolve things in a song. But remember my prior video, how important practicing chords is. They're very important. If you can't yet make all these chords, then work on making the standard chords. Make just the G, the C, and the D. And if you can make those other chords, don't just make those other chords. Go back and forth, change it up. chord progressions. Each week, we're going to do a new chord progression, and we're going to learn to do things with the chords. Yeah, once you get these progressions down, then you can start incorporating arpeggios, little hammer-ons, hammer-off, bass licks, little short three-note runs. Um, this especially is useful for an acoustic guitar. I put in the community tab on the my guitar channel page today a very good video from Rhett Shull, another YouTuber, talking about an acoustic is not the same as an electric. And often we try to get more out of an electric and more out of an acoustic than what it was actually intended to do. Now, I'm not saying you can't do the same with both. That opens up a whole nother a great discussion. I'm not fond of calling things debates. So, but it's something else to get you to understand. Like I agree with that video. He said when he's playing acoustically, he's trying to incorporate open strings. I didn't say open chords. If I'm doing a scale or an arpeggio off of a C chord, well, I want when I start doing licks and running scales or notes or improvising off that, I want to bring in some of the open chords and notes. Open notes on an acoustic ring out. Well, I like both. I do. But I'm an acoustic guy. I'm pretty much always going to be an acoustic guy. I love coming up with different sounds for an electric guitar. I love the rock era. I especially love the Beatles sounds that you get from the various guitars I have, like a Casino, an ES335, a Rickenbacker, and things like that. Um, but I'm an acoustic guy. I was in a folk group, a folk gospel group, a singer songwriter, pop Joni Mitchell, Jim Croce, Harry Chapin. We're all different, but we've all got to learn chords. And I know you can argue that, but if you're going to learn chords, you've got to learn how to progress from one chord to the next or change chords. And when we bring in the circle of fifths, and I give you a chord progression practice, G, C, and D, if you can throw in that A minor and that E minor, by all means, go ahead. If you can learn to do the G a different way, by all means, learn to do it. If you can learn to do the C a different way, rather than just the open chord, if you can also incorporate that little G note down there, which is part of the scale, that's chord voicing. It adds flavor. If you get in a group of multiple guitarists playing, it goes a long way to be able to play a chord a different way. Remember, I told you the first chord, it's blinking the root notes on the C. Well, there's the C right there, third fret, fifth string. And then here it is again down here on the second string, first fret. Remember, I told you the first chord that I teach a beginner is merely to press that C note and to strum three strings. Listen. All right, there's your entire open C chord. I'm strumming all strings. Now I lifted everything but this first note. And as you can see, it sounds very similar. Now, it's a richer chord when I add the other two notes, but it's still the C pitch and sound. Chord progressions and learning how to play chords a different way go a long way. If you're hoping to become a solo lead guitarist, you're going to find out that if you want to make your leads easier, you're going to find out as you play chords, bar chords too, power chords, up and down the neck, many of the solos you're going to do are a spinoff of the chord, the notes in a chord. So once again, I can't say it enough. Don't knock chord practice. So this week we're doing G, C, and D. G, C, and D. If you want to throw in the A minor, the E minor, B minor is a good chord to throw into. A lot of people can't play a B minor, but it's really not that hard a chord. It's got that minor sound. Those were all minor sounds. A lot of people say minor sounds are sad and major sounds are bright. Yeah, I agree with that for the most part, but they're all trying to resolve and complement one another. So G, C, and D. Let's put it up there one more time. That's our chord progression of the week. G, C, D. And I hope you enjoyed this. I know it may seem simplistic, but sometimes we need to be reminded. Remember, practice is practice. And the more you practice, the better your guitar journey gets. So, hey, I hope your guitar journey is blessed. And most of all, happy picking. Thanks for being here.